I'm Batman. What's happening, guys? It's me. It's PLD.
And I'm Richard-Erik Jarvi.
Damn, rolling the tongue there. Jeez, of course. And I'm Matty Gunner, and this is Class Action.
The classiest movie show
Class
on
Action.
interwebs.
There's no R in there, so maybe it's cross action.
It's the Wakandan accent that's gotten to me, so I start to roll my R's.
Oh, is that what
I'm not
it
going to
is?
do the accent, but I'm going to roll my R's.
Are you the guy from She-Hulk? The one that was collecting all the Wakandan artifacts.
There you go.
Who did a
remember
semester
that
in
guy.
Wakanda? He was one of the creepy guys on the dates that was like, I studied a semester in Wakanda, and then he's like the whitest dude ever.
Oh,
He does the Wakanda, and everyone's just like, no,
No, don't do that. Speaking of Wakanda, we'll talk about that in a second.
Great
Real
segue.
quick. Brian Buckingham, good to see you always in the chat. And Kelly, yes, I will say I haven't taken after baby a little bit with a late start today. I apologize for that. Well, I gotta tell you, it's been a rough couple days for me as far as like timeliness goes. So life's here, but I'm here. We're going good. We'll be fine. We started a little late, but we're here for the duration. Before we go into this, our big event today, let's talk about some things that happened to us recently. This was we try to be kind of timely on Class Action every once in a while. I mean, not always. Sometimes we throw some really random White House Down versus Olympus Has Fallen in there. But when a movie comes
when
out,
was that timely?
Right. We try to when big event movies come out.
When isn't it?
Well, that's true too, actually. But we do try to be timely with like big movie events to kind of try to tie it into what's going on in the pop cultural world and everything. And we talked about this week, of course, with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever coming out, that maybe we should do something Black Panther related. But then we just really couldn't decide what to do because it almost everything, as much as we have fun on this show and we really don't take everything too seriously, like this is never really a drag 'em down. I mean, it's a drag 'em down fight, but it's always done in great fun and usually in a positive manner. We just didn't feel like it was almost like respectful in a way with the passing of the great Chadwick Boseman and this, how Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is really, it is hard a tribute to him. It felt like disrespectful to put that up against anything. So we didn't really know what to do. So we kind of like just threw it back and forth. We started we usually half-heartedly we pitched Black Panther: Wakanda Forever versus Black Panther. That didn't seem
That would have
right.
been the only correct way to go.
Right. But still seems
even then you're like arguing Black Panther with Chadwick versus Black Panther without him, and that still seems kind of not icky, but it's like do we really want to go there?
Exactly. So then we pitched well, maybe we should we'll try to do something comic book related. PJ actually suggested at one point us doing Civil War versus Batman versus Superman. And at first I was like, yeah, that's like a cool fight. It's a cool fight. Then Richard politely comes in and goes, yeah, it is a cool fight. And we've done it before. And I went, we did, didn't we?
Yeah. And I feel like we should probably bring it up and get us out of the way. This is obviously it's kind of a timely one doing Batman with the passing of Kevin Conroy.
Right.
Yeah. Kevin Conroy. A lot of people have said he's their Batman. And I'm all respect to Kevin Conroy. I've never been much of an animated guy myself. I do enjoy his presence. I do like his voice. I have much respect for him. So that did seem very timely exactly as that came out. And it seemed like a nice little jump from Batman versus Superman and Civil War to just go to, okay, we'll just do Batman versus Superman. Batman Begins versus Man of Steel, which is this week's show. It just seemed like a nice little transition from getting from Black Panther to this one. I hope everybody sees the journey we take, and hopefully it's BVS
Class Action Edition.
Exactly.
Right.
We are the director's cut, though, the ultimate edition. That's what we're gonna go for, right?
Yeah.
But let's speak though. We can use this time because we have all now seen Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Why don't we give our little mini reviews on it, just to start things off? Matty, what did you think of the film?
I think Ryan Coogler is one of the best filmmakers of our time right now.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
The visuals of this film were stunning. The performances were absolutely incredible. I'm going to steal something from Koi here. I hope he doesn't mind. The use of silence in this movie at times was very much like there would be moments of silence and it would almost be like it's drawing breath out of you, and it's almost choking how uncomfortable it was in some moments. Does it have flaws? Yeah, sure. I wasn't a big fan of the action sequences.
Really?
I feel like they were very much marvelized, and there was a lot of quick cuts, a lot of editing around things. But also, you got to remember this was shot during COVID, so the use of stunt professionals was probably fairly limited in what they could do on the set. So it's very much a nitpick thing that I'm like, oh, this is. Yeah, I'm not even saying it's bad. It's just probably my least favorite thing about the movie. But other than that, yeah, just very heartwarming, very touching. I feel like this was, in essence, the perfect way to pay respect to Chadwick. I think everyone played their part perfectly. Angela Bassett absolutely crushed. And yeah, I it's definitely up there in my MCU ranking, if you will. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't think I'll watch it again for a while because of how heavy it was on me. I don't think it's one that I'll be going right back to. I think it's one of those films I think I'll need a break from for a little bit before I go back into it.
Okay, that's fair. What about you, Richard? What do you think?
I gave this 4.5 out of 5. It's definitely in my top 10 of the year. To maybe just expand on what Matty said, I didn't feel like the action sequences were sort of, half-assed. I felt like they were. So, for example, the bridge scene with Okoye, that was that was one of the fist pumps. Whenever the Dora Milaje starts fighting and the Wakandan music comes on, I'm so pumped. I'm so ready. And they did that a lot of times. I think Letitia Wright just did everything that was asked of her. And I am very content with going forward with her as the new Black Panther. I think there was a lot of weighing on her. She had what's the word I'm looking for? She had a lot to do. So what's the word? Not risky, but
it was a risk.
My English is failing me.
I mean, you're absolutely right. It was didn't they rewrite it in 6 months and then get back to shooting? So you're right. It was a very risky thing for her to take on.
Like a huge undertaking. I think she pulled it off perfectly. And Namor, the villain played by a guy whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce, he was amazing. He was awesome. He was a very cool villain. I would probably put him in, let's say, top 7 MCU villains. Because it is a pretty stacked list. I think everything about Talocan was awesome, and he was a very cool villain. So I'm super content with the movie. There was a lot of tears, but a lot of fist bumping, and I think Marvel sort of got back on track with this movie, whereas they got away. Spider-Man: Far From Home was Far From Home. No Way Home. The last Spider-Man. No Way Home. That was the last great Marvel movie. Then it was sort of Doctor Strange, Thor. There was something in between that was sort of, I think a few movies here and there. It sort of felt like they're losing their touch a little bit. This one sort of brought it back to me to the Endgame era. Is it just me or I can't hear?
Not pose me.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
There we are.
Okay. Well, that's interesting you say that. How do I tackle this. I did enjoy it. I actually enjoyed it better than Black Panther 1.
Wow.
I did actually enjoy it better than Black Panther 1.
Same here. Same for me.
However, just to me, it was a mixed bag for me. I'm not gonna lie. I hate saying that. I don't want to come off like, especially because it was.
Don't. It's your opinion. Like, this is something like we don't have to validate our opinions and things. If, if something didn't say with you, like,
I do feel like I'm treading a little ground because I mean, it wore its heart in its sleeve and wanted so much to be a loving tribute to Chadwick, and it did do that overall. I'm trying to separate that from the movie I saw, though. I will say the movie handles that part extremely well. I think the emotional beats and the good beats are some of the more powerful of the MCU. There's some amazing. I think when it's good, it's really super, super good. The other, and I want to throw out there. I do love Angela Bassett. I think she puts on a tour de force of her performance. I did appreciate also Tanaka Huerta as Namor. I think he was a phenomenal job doing that as well. I felt it was a little bit of a slog to me. I kind of felt like by the end, it felt every bit of the 2 hours and 41 minutes it was. I think it missed Chadwick Boseman quite a bit. Again, I don't think anything that was wrong with the film was really, I can really blame it on the film. At the end of the day, though, I still preferred Thor. I still preferred Doctor Strange. I still preferred Eternals. I still preferred a lot of the MCU movies in Phase 4. This is actually a little lower on my list so far. I will validate my opinion to you, Matty. I don't know. And it's not saying I didn't like it. It's not at all. I did overall like it. I didn't absolutely love it like a lot of people did. It is what it is. It is a good, loving tribute. I'm happy it happened. Ryan Coogler is a great director. I appreciate what he's going to do next. I kind of feel like I wanted to see what happens now that we are past this first step of, okay, Chadwick passed.
Yeah.
Here's the loving tribute. Okay, now let's see what happens when he comes back into the film, if that makes sense. This kind of felt just more like a less of a movie and more like a ceremony kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Well, that was kind of the goal in some ways, I think.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciated that this didn't. I think that was Matty said quite the opposite, but to me, this didn't feel like another MCU movie. This was its own thing, separate thing, and I love that about it.
Yeah, by any chance, it didn't follow the Marvel formula. I just meant like when I said that the actions felt very Marvelified, I was talking solely about the editing alone, it being like very, very quick between cuts, very snappy, and I was just like, oh, okay, like I would have liked to have seen a bit more flow to some of the sequences, but that's just me. You guys know how I view action sequences.
For sure. There was some shaky cam.
Yeah, like I'm when I watch action sequences, I'm looking at it like Matrix code. I'm just like, okay, I want to see all the pieces put together. But can we talk about real quick how Ludwig, in my opinion, is the best working composer today? Because not only did he do the score. No, I'm going out. I'm saying this working composer until John Williams retires.
Well, there you go.
He's the best working. Okay, fine. But he's already done the indie score, so technically he's not working right now. He's kind of retired. But not only did Ludwig do the score, he's credited on writing all this music for the soundtrack as well. So that Rihanna song, Ludwig wrote it. There's a track called "Alone" by Burna Boy that he wrote. That song is definitely going to be in when I look at my Spotify at the end of the year, like my most listened to songs. And it's the song when she's putting together the synthetic herb and she's working with Riri Williams. And it's that
music
like,
was great.
Like almost like R&B kind of song that's playing.
Yep.
I fucking love that song. I play that song at least 10 times a day just because it is so damn good.
Send it to me. Send it to me because there was a lot of. It wasn't just the score. You're completely right. There was like great soundtracks, great songs here and there, instead of just themed score.
Interestingly, I did not know that Ludwig was also the creator of the song, so I appreciated that knowledge.
I didn't know that either.
It turns out Coogler was also involved in writing that song. Surprisingly, it was and Ludwig was great. I just hesitate. It's always when you put him against John Williams, he's going to lose as far as I'm concerned. So I will give you that.
Well, John's retired, so.
But you know what? This is a good segue too. Speaking of that, the other living guy at this point working is the guy who recorded the score for one of today's shows or one of today's movies. There, Hans Zimmer's Man of Steel.
This is Hans Zimmer versus Hans Zimmer. You have no idea how blessed and sort of torn I feel at the same time. This is going to be a tough category for me.
But let's start sliding into that after we've done our Black Panther Wakanda Forever mini review.
Shout out Andre. It's in the chat. He's just joined us as well.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Yeah. Andres Gallego.
Somebody Man of Steel's from the piano shoot. He sent me a video last night of Cillian Murphy's Bruce Wayne audition that I've never seen.
Oh, that sounds cool.
It's out there?
Yeah. I'll send you the link. Just send it to me, and dude.
Sweet, I'll take a look at that at some point. Absolutely. I mean, we love Cillian Murphy here. So
if Christian didn't get it,
interesting.
You could
I have a hard time seeing that, but
you could flip those roles because Christian Bale is a chameleon. He could play the Scarecrow, and Cillian Murphy could play Bruce Wayne. You could flip them.
Number one jawline in Hollywood. I'm saying it now. Cillian Murphy has the number one jawline in Hollywood. No one come at me. It's true. Chiseled out of granite.
But let's get into that. At this point, we got Man of Steel and Batman Begins, which are both Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer written. Obviously, Christopher Nolan's a little more heavily involved in Batman Begins because he did direct it, obviously, and he has the full screenplay credit. Whereas Man of Steel, he wrote the story treatment and let David read the actual full-on screenplay. But it's one of these. This is one of those matchups that I have a hard time believing that we haven't done because it seems like they make a lot of sense. It's the two origin stories of the most current DC. Really, I mean, yeah, Batman. We do have obviously Ben Affleck as Batman, but these are the two most recent full-on Superman movie and Batman movie as far as origin stories go and everything else. So it may make a lot of sense to put up against each other. And Andres is right. We do obviously have Zimmer and James Newton Howard also does music for Batman.
Well, Man of Steel, I think isn't it Junkie X? No, that was for BVS, right? I think it's just Hans Zimmer. For
Junkie XL was
right.
BVS.
Right, exactly. So these are definitely a good places. This is a good battle to have. We'll have some categories for you in a second because that's what we do in Class Action here. I don't know if we've even said that yet. We kind of did a little bit of a different story here, a little bit different intros we usually do. But Class Action is where we do paste to items like either movies in this case, sometimes directors, sometimes actors, put them up against each other in 5 custom or 6 custom-made categories, and do we determine which one is the ultimate winner, which one is judged guilty, which one is judge supreme, and something like that. It's all good. You'll see how it works as it goes. But before we do that, we do have some games we like to play. This is a game that I'm going to give a little spoiler to, a little upcoming spoiler. We are going to alter it slightly. So you have to get ready for that. So this might be the last time we do the full-on what would Ed Harris play. As you all know, Ed Harris is probably the greatest actor to ever grace the silver screen, as far as I'm concerned. You know, your miles may vary.
I'll back it up.
There you go. I know you have my back, man. I love you. We decided that we're going to put him into these movies so we can either recast someone or we can write a new role for them. Because if you put Ed Harris in a movie, it's going to make it better. So we're going to do that for both Batman Begins and Man of Steel. I'm kind of curious to see if my compatriots actually decided to prepare this or if they're going to wing it. Sometimes it's better when we wing it. But let's start with you, Jarvi. You got kind of a smirk on your face. Let's start with you. Batman Begins. What are you going to place Ed Harris in Batman?
Please don't prepare, Jarvi. Please don't prepare.
I did prepare.
Damn
it! I'm trying to be prepped for the show now and
try to be a professional broadcaster.
But it's having an opposite effect because whenever I prepare them, they're kind of boring. And this one is no exception. For Batman Begins, I put Ed Harris as Thomas Wayne.
Okay.
I want to see him as Thomas Wayne. I want to see him as this completely noble character, but sort of have him bring in that side of Thomas Wayne that BVS introduced us with Jeffrey Dean Morgan there. So there's a little bit of more of a tough guy, the killer instinct there. There is a lot of because the Nolan's Thomas Wayne, he's more of a
tradition.
He's more of a like a saint. He's a saint. There are no flaws to him. I think Ed Harris could have more of that sternness. So whenever there are these moments where Thomas is teaching young Bruce, like, why do we fall so we get back up again? Those teaching moments are going to be more, stern, more sort of tough love type of moments with Ed Harris.
Nice. Okay, all right. I'm going to throw it out there. These might have him. Andres is already in the chat saying Ed Harris is a great Carmine Falcone and amazing Jonathan Kent for Man of Steel. We'll talk about that for sure. Kelly putting him as Ra's al Ghul. Interesting as well.
That was the obvious choice, I think, to have him as Ra's al Ghul.
Well, we'll have to see. Matty, what did you think about that?
Real quick before you do that, is Ra's al Ghul's the most of Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn that we've ever seen?
He's kind of evil. He's got a little bit of the evil Qui-Gon.
A little bit of an evil Qui-Gon. I feel like if we'd have been able to like.
Well, he's definitely more dark side though.
He has noble intentions.
He's gonna kill the fucking city.
Well, but for the greater, we'll get there. We'll get there.
So, like the Sith for the greater good, for the good of the galaxy.
Say V for Vendetta was then a villain. He was blowing up a train in the
He was a villain. He was a villain.
The Sith are for the greater good. Paul, you finally said it. We finally agree.
I never said it wasn't. I'm just saying it's definitely more dark side than the noble Jedi Knight Qui-Gon Jinn was. Let's be honest. You're gonna put Qui-Gon Jinn up against Ra's al Ghul. Which one's the evil one?
But that's for scoundrels. That's for scoundrels of the Force. When we get back to that, but so I've actually been to the manor where they shot the Wayne Manor scenes in Nottingham. Ooh. Like some friends of mine got married there, and I wore an all-black suit just because I wanted to be Batman in that thing. But you guys know how I love to cast Ed Harris as like the minor, tiny little cameo.
Yep, sure do.
So mine is in the scene during the party, when Alfred is putting Rachel into the car because she's been, she's got the toxin in her, and he turns and he looks and he sees the waiter and the cook and the waitress. I want Ed Harris to play the waiter that is just looking at Michael Caine like, what the fuck are you doing?
The only problem I have with that is that in that case, Ed Harris would have kicked Michael Caine's ass at that point. He probably would have tried to be the hero and knocked out the old guy. But
yeah, he's looking at her like, she's down there, you're up there. Why are you putting in the wrong goddamn car?
Nice. I really least once per episode. I love it.
I wanted to go with Gordon, but I felt like that would be too easy, so I went with.
I gotta say, it's funny. We have said there's a lot of characters in here where it would be an easy fix.
Yep.
The only person I can't see him being Batman at this point. He's too old. I can see him being Batman in a Batman Beyond, perhaps at some point. Somebody does that.
You could see him easily as Alfred.
Alfred is definitely someone. Mm-hmm. I thought about Ra's al Ghul. I know Matty's gonna kill me. Remember, Matty, this is not a real thing, and we have both versions in my head. I would love to see Ed Harris try and Scarecrow role, to be honest with you. I think he could have been give him that part where he gets a little nuts, like Just Cause kind of Ed Harris. He just got that tweak of insane, a little bit of an insane angle going on. I think he could be an interesting.
I'm surprised you didn't cast him as Rachel.
He could do that as well. He could make that work absolutely. I also do like him as Gordon. I kind of loved it. I would love to see him treat. It's not and that's actually what I ended up going with was James Gordon, because you don't get to see that side of James Gordon.
Don't mention that fucker to me.
He doesn't get the chance to do that kind of role nearly as often. He's usually the bad guy. He's the more intense guy. Carmine, like Andre said, Falcone is actually a very easier pick for me. He'd kind of sit there. I could see Ed Harris completely doing he begged like a dog. He could totally do that.
Yeah.
But Wilkinson sort of has that Italian factor about him. I have such a hard time imagining Ed Harris sort of doing that American Italian thing. I don't know why. Because I can see him doing everything else. That's the one thing I'm having trouble with.
You'd probably be better at it than Chris Pratt.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
that's right. If Chris Pratt can do it, I think Ed Harris can pull it off. But I would want to go. Like I said, I want to go Gordon because I think it's just one of those few times that I want to challenge him a little bit, and he has done that type of role before. He was kind of absolute power, is kind of like a James Gordon kind of character. But it'd be interesting to see him be that kind of the good light in the little sea of darkness, so to speak. But that been kind of cool as well. Of course, the other one. There's so many roles in this. I'm saying, like, I could see him doing. I could even see him doing Rucker Hauer's part. Like,
Oh, for sure.
for
sure.
So many of them he could do. So
Joe Hill.
absolutely, he could do that. And he could do almost anything there. But I'll stick with Gordon for now. That's me, my pick. So let's move on to Man of Steel. I'll take Man of Steel this time.
Go ahead.
In the same way that I want to challenge him, his stereotypes, I'm going to kind of challenge the stereotypes again. I'm actually going to agree with Andres. I want to see him playing Jonathan Kent.
Okay.
You're recasting one of the greatest movie dads ever. Oh.
I think he's done it before a little bit. You can see a little bit of that in Stepmom, where he was a father who had to deal with like his new girl.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
He did a very good job in that fatherly type role. Again, and something he doesn't do very often. You could even challenge that, like his character in The Abyss is very he can play that like kind of earthy kind of guy, that down to earth kind of guy, and put him in a situation like this where he's just an honorable, noble dude. I think he could handle it just as well as Kevin Costner could. I love Kevin Costner in Man of Steel.
Kevin Costner's the best.
That's why you can't. I mean, tell him Ed Harris could have done something like that.
Oh, he could have. I just love Kevin Costner.
Oh, I know, absolutely. I get it. I mean, I threw him around there. I was like, he could do Zod, sure, but it almost seemed too typical to me. I want to give him a little bit of a different scope on things. Jarvi, what do you think about that one?
All right. Well, I put him as Zod, so thank you very much. I was like, the moment you said it, I was like, oh, fuck. No.
Hey, no. I mean, it's fine. But I shit on his thing of him as Gordon, so it's fine.
The reason why I kind of went so obvious with him, but I love Michael Shannon. I think he's a weird but a very cool actor. I think Zod, have Michael Shannon as Zod. It was a very interesting choice. Michael Shannon does a lot of yelling and screaming as Zod. Who is better at yelling, angry screaming? Fucking Ed Harris. Like that. I have no problem at all imagining him in that role. And I think Michael Shannon sort of has that tender sensibility about him that, or sort of that, I don't know, maniacal thing that is connected to this tenderness in him. Mm-hmm. I think Ed Harris wouldn't have that. And I think it would make the character even more badass in a way.
Interesting. I mean, I totally agree on Ed Harris can scream and get intense like nobody. I can completely love the scene where he tells Clark or Kal-El's mom there, I will find him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ed Harris would have been great in that. I'm not going to lie there. So I mean, when I said before, I said it was typical. It's not even the fact that it's too typical for me. I'd still love to see it. I just want to challenge it myself. So that was not meant as a slight in any way to your picking of Zod. I'm all here for it.
It's too late. The damage is done.
Real quick, Andres in the chat saying, fun fact, in their first choice for Jor-El.
Damn it.
According was Clive Owen. Interesting fact.
Clive Owen.
That was gonna be mine. I see me, Andres.
Jor-El?
Within hive mind. I was gonna put Ed as Jor-El. Sorry, Russell.
Okay, I like that too. I think that actually would be very cool. It's kind of similar to a little bit against type, like you say, but it would work very well. I think I like that choice actually.
I want him but I want the confrontation between Jor-El and Zod at the beginning. Ed Harris, like I feel like Russell was a bit too tame and a bit too.
Oh, that was definitely there. Yeah,
like, I want Ed Harris to go fucking in. Like you're defending your son. Fucking go at this dude. Don't just be like, oh yes, I'm gonna send my son away to a planet and he will end up defeating you. No, fucking, he's trying to kill your kid, bro.
I like that.
Fly above him and say, I'm up here, you're down there. You walked into the wrong goddamn planet.
Do you know, now that I think of it, who would have been the perfect, like even better casting for Jor-El? It's the guy who fucking dies always, Sean Bean. Dude, he would have. He's like tailor-made for Jor-El.
Yes. But then you've got to bring him back.
Yeah. Oh, you can bring him back. That's okay.
For sure.
No. It's in Sean Bean's contracts. Like when he dies, if he dies, he dies.
It does.
It does.
Interesting. One more thing from Andres. I think Harris would have had a much friendly turn when Cal first appears in the ship with him, and you'd absolutely buy his turn evil after Cal gets buried in the skulls. Okay, that's fair. Absolutely.
That was such a cool scene with the skulls.
That was a cool scene. All right. Well, that is our game of the week. We'll move on to our trial now. We have 5 categories, and I got to say, this episode was one of the toughest I've ever dealt with. Like,
really,
every category, I feel like works. I could have an argument for either side, to be honest with you. But we'll go with it.
The matchup, I feel like the categories this time are a little more character based. There aren't as much like overall movie categories in here, but more about the characters themselves, which sort of made it kind of more difficult, kind of easier in the same way. But we can expand on those categories.
Well, before we go to the category, I laugh at this, Andres. I would buy Harris to be the only Kryptonian brave and bold enough to make a baby the old-fashioned way. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's get into these categories here for the trial. We got category 1, better hero. Now, we don't mean who is the better hero, like is Batman or Superman. It's not necessarily just that, because you all have
exactly what we mean. That's exactly what we mean.
Is in the films themselves with what's a better depiction of Superman and a better depiction of Batman, which one works that way. 2, better villain or villains, as it were, in this case.
There's many.
Category 3, better origin story. They're both actually obviously origin stories, so which one does it better? They're both well-known origin stories, too. That's the thing. They've both been told numerous times on the silver screen, on comic book page, on whatever kind of. We all know these stories. If we have to see so many pearls floating the ground again.
The fucking Batman, pearls.
If we see Krypton blowing up again, like we've seen these stories before. So which one did a better version of a well-known origin story? 4, we talked about it. We already gave a hint earlier. Better score, which is the better Zimmer score, or James Newton Howard, Batman gives as well. And finally, the 5th one, something we don't talk about very much, but I think it actually fits well here. Better costume design. We have like some superhero kind of things. We have obviously 2 big costumes themselves. We obviously have some villains who have some interesting layers as well. But which one would go? We go with on costume design. That's what we tackle very often.
Versus the mustache.
There you go. So there we go on that. Rich has been good to see in the chat. Ed Harris is Perry White. That actually would be a good job too. I think that would be a cool thing too.
That's the best whitewashing you could do on our show, and actually call the character White.
Right, Perry White. There you go. All right, and Andres ready with it. Okay, so he loves the category. It's good to see it, Andres. Thank you. Appreciate that, my friend.
Let's see if you still love him after you hear the result.
Yeah, let's find out, I guess. So without further ado, let's get into our first category. Matty, I'm going to start with you on Better Hero. Why? Just because I decided to.
Fair enough. Growing up reading comics, I was never a Superman fan. I'm of the camp that I thought he was too overpowered. I thought that he was very much like, oh, cool, like Superman's going to come in and save the day and beat the bad guy, blah, 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 blah. But that's what he does. And I feel like this is a good way of, I think Man of Steel did a good job of not portraying him in that light. I feel like this is very much a Kal-El that was finding his feet with his powers. You know, obviously we see him as a child develop through them, obviously like a Kryptonian puberty, and like learning to control his powers and learning when to hide them, when to use them at the right moments. I feel that was a really good way of making it look like he's somewhat flawed as opposed to just overpowered. I'm going to come flying in, laser beam, bah, bah, bah. I'm going to beat everyone up, job done, fly away. However, Christian Bale as not only is Batman, he's a great Batman. The athleticism is all there. He looks cool and
huge.
He
got too big for the role. You've heard the stories, probably.
Yeah. If there's one actor that's like goes all in with the whole like bulking and cutting weight for a role, it's Bale. But I feel like not only did he, there wasn't so much of Cavill playing Clark Kent and Kal-El as there was Bale having to juggle Bruce Wayne and Batman. I feel like Bale did a much better job of managing the two than Henry Cavill did as Superman. So I'm going to give it to Batman. I'm going to give it to Christian Bale because I think there's more layers that he had to portray in the performance than Henry Cavill did.
Interesting. Okay, that's a good angle.
Can I expand on this? Because
yeah, you can go, absolutely.
Because his final point is exactly what sort of made me think about this category. Is to me, both these characters feel like, well, there's not enough divide between them. I feel like Bruce Wayne and Batman are kind of in the same mood, the same characters throughout. Like Bailey's trying sort of to portray that. There's the pool scene. I think it's in Batman Begins, right, where he's sort of I bought the hotel, but Cavill and Superman, Clark and Superman sort of feel like the same character throughout. So both of these, to me, in a way, that's what I think. The same thing happened with Pattinson and as his Batman and Bruce Wayne. I think they were exactly the same character. There wasn't that divide between them. But in a weird way, Christian Bale so how can I say this without offending people? I don't think he was like the obvious or a good choice to play Bruce Wayne and Batman. He sort of feels, I don't know, maybe that's, I know where he's at his career at this point now. I feel like he's too good to sort of play a comic book hero. Even though Christopher Nolan sort of has made that character very, very like down to earth, very grounded, I still feel like Christian Bale was sort of too good for it. And on the other side, like Henry Cavill, he feels like the most perfect casting that you can have for Superman and Clark Kent. He feels like he's absolutely tailor-made for the role. And usually, so when we're doing class action, I like to pick so Christian Bale would usually be my pick because he feels more against the grain. And he did an amazing job as Bruce Wayne and Batman, but Henry Cavill was the obvious choice. And he loves the character so much. He's gone like everything that he's been saying, how he has been wanting to get back to the character. I feel like Superman is sort of in his blood. He's like, he feels like he is a real life Superman, and his performance in Man of Steel, I think I'm just going to give it one up for Christian Bale, even though Christian Bale is more of your sort of character actor, your Oscar-winning actor. I think Henry Cavill as Superman is, I don't know, is more enjoyable to watch for me.
So you're voting for Cavill, is what you're saying.
I'm going with Cavill. Yeah. I know there was a very convoluted argument, but
I was like, you said something about giving it to Christian Bale away. I felt like you were arguing for Cavill, and also you said I'm not arguing for. I got a little confused. My own bad. I'll go with it though. Okay, so we got 1-1. I will tackle this next. I do think you both make excellent points. I think the dichotomy of what Christian Bale had to do for Batman and Bruce Wayne was very interesting. I do want to say though, at the same time, I feel like I kind of more agree with Jarvi in terms of I feel like Henry Cavill just was Superman. Like I just felt his depiction of it. I felt like him and Clark, they weren't two different people yet. Clark and Cavill were the same person, so there's no reason to have to make any kind of dichotomy. It was like I had to make him different because he isn't really the Clark Kent mask until the very end.
He's Clark Kent.
He is
becoming Superman.
Becomes Superman. At the end,
right?
We get to see the more Clark Kent mask thing, as you would call it, or whatever. So his depiction of Superman to me was one of the best depictions of. And I grew up with Christopher Reeve, and I love the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. But this was an amazing depiction, an amazing slow burn of probably, honestly, to me, the best version of how Clark became Superman. Like we had Smallville, which is a long series, and I love Smallville.
That's the Tom Welling show, right?
Tom Welling show, yeah.
That's one.
The CW. I do enjoy that quite a bit, to be honest with you. And that's even a longer, slower burn. But it's this. I think Man of Steel does it best, showing you in one movie the young, the middle, and the end, as it were. So this one to me is almost easily Superman. And I love Christian Bale as Batman. I actually do think he's a good Bruce Wayne overall. Gallegos actually agrees with me. He said at one point, I saw it earlier, Bale was a great Bruce, but maybe a shaky Batman. Maybe. I don't think he ever quite made the character his own, to be honest with you. He had his Batman was just the voice. I felt like that's what Batman was to him. It almost became like too much of a. It became like I actually liked the voice during Batman Begins, so I shouldn't say too much about it. But it kind of became almost like people mock it.
I mean, a meme. It's a meme.
Batman. It's a meme. But that's like, how am I going to make? Some people making fun of like the glasses of Superman. How Clark Kent just put on glasses. Bruce Wayne just I'm going to make the voice, and that's his Batman. So at the end of the day, they both do a decent job. Both an entertaining attack, but I can't not give this one to Man of Steel for that at all. Interestingly. Real quick, I just want to throw some other chats in here before we move on to our next category. Revism, also a Superman fan, but didn't enjoy Batman either. I should actually throw that out there too. I grew up as a Batman fan more than a Superman fan.
Same here.
Although I did like Superman a lot as well. Because like I said, I watched the hell out of the Christopher Reeve movies. But the comic books I always collected were Batman. Andres, I might tackle this at some point. I don't know if we're going to hit this at some point. Maybe we will. Both mistakes made with the character with Batman. I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. Great line. And Man of Steel snapping Zod's neck.
That's a category.
That's a category. We'll talk about that to a degree. Yeah, because I think we're going to get into that in the origin story category. Of course, yes, because 4 people in the train station couldn't run away. I get that. I still argue with you about that. I'll still argue all day about it. And also interesting here, I didn't know this. Reefism, Scott Adkins said he preferred Christopher Nolan's Batman film, but loves Zack Snyder's Batman's fight scenes.
Oh, yes.
What?
Oh, my God, yes. No, the Batman fight scene, the warehouse scene in BVS, it's one of the best fight scenes in comic books ever.
I'm shocked that's coming from Scott Adkins, because Scott Adkins is notorious for being like comic book movie fight scenes are so overdone, so over edited. Like I listened to his podcast, and like that's what like one of his strong opinions is that like a lot of comic book movies, like I said about Black Panther, are like so overdone and blah blah blah. So for Scott Adkins to give that fight scene praise, I'm like, wow, okay.
You know better than I do. That's all right. Cool. All right, let's get into it then. Better villains. Wait, sorry, I just had a laugh. Christo, yes, Adam West does have the best fight scenes. You know, punch, pow, kapow, all those. All right, better villain stories, better villains. Batman Begins and Man of Steel. I'll start this one if you don't mind. I think this one's a very interesting one to me. But just by quantity alone, I got to give it to Batman Begins. Man of Steel has a great villain in Zod, one of the greatest villains in the history of Superman and in history of comic books. I mean, it's a meme today. Kneel before Zod. He does, and Michael Shannon's a great actor. Everything is like everything on paper works out that he should be a phenomenal villain in Man of Steel, and he's not bad. But then you compare him to we have on the other side, where you have you got Liam Neeson's evil Qui-Gon, you have Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow, you have Tom Wilkinson's Carmine Falcone. Like these are just like bing, 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 bing. All of them are good. Like all of those villains could be the headlining villain of a movie.
Right.
And Batman Begins actually does the great thing that Batman's always had problems with. Batman films have been notorious for trying to put too much villains in a movie and like watering them down. Somehow all 3 are in these movies and they don't want to get watered down at all. And
they're not crowded.
It feels like just normal. I'm like, wow. So I got to give this to Batman Begins. I love all 3 of those performances. And again, when you have a villain like Tom Wilkins to be your 3rd villain, you got a good villain thing going on. So definitely giving this one to Batman Begins for me.
Damn him.
And damn that man.
And I'm just going to expand on that by saying you could take the other 2 out. And I know I'm just saying this because I'm a Cillian Murphy nut hugger.
Are you
proud of it?
Oh, I didn't know that about you.
Cillian Murphy's ability, and I know I've said this before, but please, for the love of God, go watch Peaky Blinders. Cillian Murphy's ability to just be calm, composed, stone faced, and then just snap to rage-filled psychopath, like serial killer almost, is like, it's unnerving. It's almost like unsettling because like he seems like such a nice dude, but then like you have him like the scene where he's talking to Rachel in the asylum, and you can see the frustration is building and building behind his eyes. Like he's just selling it with his eyes. You can tell he's just like, this fucking woman is getting too fucking close. You know what? I'm just gonna put on the mask. Fuck this shit. And you have obviously Liam Neeson as Dark Qui-Gon Jinn, but I feel like with that you could interchange someone else into that role. I think Cillian Murphy is perfect for Scarecrow, especially because he's got that like chiseled jawline, like nerdy, almost kind of features. Like he's very like, he's a pretty boy. Like you wouldn't expect him to be like a Tom Hardy as Bane and like walking around like breaking Batman's back. No, he's gonna fuck with your head, and that's the worst kind of villain. Zod just wants to, you know, wipe out the human race. Cool. What other comic book villain doesn't? Thanos did that. Galactus probably gonna do that. Like most superhero movies, that's a trope that we've seen. They want to wipe out the human race. Cool, seen it a million times. Scarecrow just wants to fuck with your head, and that is terrifying. So, without a doubt, I'm giving this Batman Begins solely because Cillian Murphy's the fucking man.
I give that, and I will. I'm going to give Cillian Murphy, actually, before you go on to you, Jarvi. I want to give Cillian Murphy probably one of the better compliments I can give Matty. So you'll appreciate this. I actually see a lot of Ed Harris and Cillian Murphy. I do. I think they're very similar actors.
What?
They're very similar actors.
Hey, what?
I know our next show, guys. I know our next show.
I do. Ed Harris.
It's going to be Peaky Blinders versus Westworld.
There you go. No. I in terms of that, I do think they have the same kind of a intensity when they need to turn it on. They both have this kind of very charismatic, low key. Even when they're not doing anything, you still are like, what are they doing? Like I'm engrossed in what they're doing, kind of thing. So yeah, Cillian Murphy is one of my favorite younger supporting actors for that same reason. I put them in that same kind of category.
Wait until Oppenheimer, baby.
Possibly, I'm hoping for that. Where do I not see it here? Kelly, actually, I don't. Actually, I wouldn't say that about a lot of people because that's like I'm not going to like that, you know. So.
What's the South Park reference? I see him every day in my dreams, in the smile of every baby.
Pretty much. I think honestly, I'm gonna come clean and get a little dark here for myself. I feel like Harris is getting older, and I'm kind of like trying to prepare for that day when he's no longer with us. And I'm like looking for. I know, but that's my dark side.
I had the same conversation about Sir Patrick Stewart with a friend of mine the other day. I'm like, nope, not going. No route. Jarvi, take us out of this dark route.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right,
light our way, Jarvi, with the best villains.
I think I'm going to expand on what both of you said about Batman Begins. The fact that I think the reason why all these three great actors, great villains work in one movie, and you feel like each of them get their time, like they're not rushed in any way, yet they're not given too much time that the movie feels crowded, and it's because they're all so different. Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson, he's a bad guy. He's a villain with a purpose that you understand, you can get behind. You could make a movie about Ra's al Ghul where he's the hero. There is a sort of a version of that out there. He's that type of sympathetic villain. Now take Tom Wilkinson. He's more of your shit weasel mob boss who's just trying to do everything for his own good. Like he's out there for himself. And then you got fucking Cillian Murphy as the Scarecrow, who's sort of the Joker of the Batman Begins. He's just chaos. He wants chaos. He wants to fuck with your mind. He still has that more of a purpose than Joker, but he's got that psychopathic way about him where like, he uses the gas. Is he like sort of the director of Arkham or what?
Yeah.
Right. Yet he's the craziest one out there. So there's sort of this
the asylum,
anarchy.
The inmate is running the asylum.
Pretty much.
Right. Exactly. We gotta give some more credit to Man of Steel. I think Michael Shannon, like even though I replaced him with Ed Harris, I think Michael Shannon does a very cool job with Zod. And I want to talk about an actress, Anche Traue. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. She plays Feora. She's one of the coolest looking characters and villains in Man of Steel. It's the female Kryptonian who's teamed up with Zod. She looks so fucking great. I think, and she doesn't get enough to do in this movie. That's such a shame. I think she sort of has that classic villain female jawline that you talked about, like Cillian Murphy has the perfect she's the version of like a perfect female villain jawline. But that's all that I can really say for Man of Steel, because Batman Begins just fucking mops this entire category.
I agree.
With no chance for Man of Steel.
We didn't even mention Rutger Hauer, who is also a villain in like the Bruce Wayne. He's the Bruce Wayne villain.
And Ken Watanabe, who's your sort of rope-a-dope villain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't recognize Ken Watanabe as a villain. He's just too lovely. He's too nice. But also, this is my last point, is like Michael Shannon's beard. Come on. I can't unsee it. It's just.
Does he have a beard in this, or he has that sort of that
like
thing?
The little like weird goatee, like so
right,
like almost like he's one of the Kryptonian Backstreet Boys. It's just kind of like
you know. Flip that out. There it is. There we go. Michael Shannon, one of the Kryptonian Backstreet Boys. That's the takeaway from this episode today. I will throw in there real quick.
Backstreet's odd.
Seriously, James Hong is 93 when that.
Dude, John Williams is up there.
Mm-hmm. No, that motherfucker's gonna live forever. John Williams is gonna live forever.
Disney's
gonna freeze that motherfucker.
Harrison Ford is up there. Like, it's just
it's gonna be a
tough
few years when they start to go. It's gonna be like a fucking domino effect. I feel like.
I really feel
Harrison
that
just
way.
needs to stay out of the pilot seat and he'll be fine.
That's what we hope. Or at least bring Chewie with you. Andre saying no misguided ideals will stop us. If they do, you simply walk up behind them and recast it with Ed Harris. I like that. Yeah, I'm always good for that, Andres. And she was nice. Okay, she should have been Wonder Woman to me. Oh, that's interesting.
She would have been a great pick.
That would have been an interesting pick. I mean, I like Gal, but that's an interesting choice. Yes, let them fight. Yes, let them fight. All right. And Krypton's back. All right.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Let's move on to our next category then. We got better origin story. Oof. Okay. I led last time, so I will let you. Jarvi, you haven't led yet.
Jarvi, you haven't led yet.
Yeah, I think this is sort of a matchup of concepts in a way, because Man of Steel in its entirety is sort of an origin story. Batman Begins is a more segmented movie. I feel like there's like the first third of the film is the origin story, which I think is one of the coolest things that Christopher Nolan brought to Batman Begins. The way Bruce Wayne goes on his journey to find Ra's al Ghul, he befriends him, Ra's becomes his mentor. They sort of live, train, work together, and eventually the falling out happens. I think that kind of a hero's journey in Batman Begins is, I think it's one, like, yes, I think this is Christopher Nolan's best origin stories that he's done. And the fact that Ra's al Ghul comes back as the villain, yet you still understand exactly where he's coming from, why he's doing those things. And you put that up against Man of Steel, which has one of the coolest fucking opening sequences in a comic book movie. The way we saw Krypton for the first time with like full effects, you got everything. Like, say what you want about Zack Snyder visually. The first part of Krypton, the fall of Krypton and the fight, the sort of civil war that happens there. It's a perfect setup. It is a perfect setup for these characters. You see where Kal-El is coming from. You see Jor-El in such an amazing capacity. I think, and the fact that Zack Snyder you have that super fantastic origin story, the intro on Krypton, and then you sort of put it up against, like not put up against, but you turn the movie into a more gritty and grounded Superman movie. So the first half is super fantastic. And the second half is a Superman story that sort of is very earthy in a way. You see the family life. You see Superman. He's not this sort of flamboyant spandex type of a hero. You see, I'm talking about the Christopher Reeve movies, obviously. You see him working on that rig there. You see him sort of building up to that Superman story. So yeah, I think Man of Steel in its entirety is an origin story, but I think Batman Begins. I think what Christopher Nolan did with Batman Begins and the Ra's al Ghul, what's the League of Shadows?
Yeah,
what's it called? Yeah. League of Shadows. I think it's one of the coolest, better done origin stories. I'm going with Batman Begins.
Okay, interesting choice there. Okay,
it's so tough. It's so tough. This category is tough.
Matt, I'll give it to you. You take it.
I'm going to say Batman Begins solely because I would have liked to have. I know they put Clark joining the Daily Planet at the end. I would have much preferred that to have come a little bit earlier in the story. I feel like it would have been good for him to join the planet and join the Daily Planet and then meet Lois that way. I don't know why. It just, to me, I may be completely wrong in this, but to me, it felt like their meeting was kind of forced to get to a point in the movie as opposed to letting it grow naturally over time. And you think of comic book relationships, it's Peter Parker and Mary Jane and Lois Lane and Clark Kent are like the two main ones. So I would have preferred to have seen like that relationship grow more naturally as opposed to how I perceived it to be as we need to get to this point in the movie, hurry up and put the pieces together, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas I felt like Batman Begins, we got, like as Jarvi said, we got more of the hero's journey. We saw Bruce Wayne not only become Batman and become the symbol of Batman to the city of Gotham, we saw a little bit of the Bruce Wayne mask slowly start to fall, like, and him take up the mantle of his father, but not really want to. You see him in the mansion at the party, and he's just like, "Oh, you sycophants and posers and hangers on! Like, get out of here! Get away from me! I don't want you here!" And I was just like going from a man who loved his father more than anyone to being completely disgusted at the even thought of like being that kind of a person. I was just like, wow, that's character development right there. And yeah, I think they're both good origin stories. I just think Batman Begins is more appealing to me.
Okay, those are very fair statements. I listening to you both, I definitely see where you both are coming from. But I'm going to completely take it to the direction. I think you both are nuts and crazy, in a good way though. Because it is a fight. I do agree that Batman Begins has a great origin story as well. I just think Man of Steel, honestly, this one was actually a lot easier for me than most of the other ones. I think Man of Steel wipes Batman Begins off the map easily. To be honest with you, I think the whole movie is probably one of the best origin stories we've had. And maybe it's because I'm not precious with the origin story. Like I said, I grew up a Batman fan, and I do like Superman's origin story, and I love Superman's original, like the Christopher Reeve comic book things. But I like the alternate take that they went with it. They took some risks with it and changed it up to a degree where I know a lot of people. Man of Steel is honestly one of the most divisive superhero films I've ever seen. In terms of like the people who love it absolutely love it. And there's people who absolutely hate it and say it's like the worst piece of dross that they've ever, like Zack Snyder is an affront to mankind for his version of Superman. And I'm far more on the Batman. This is the best, one of the best superhero films I've ever seen. I feel the young Clark Kent. I feel the conversations he had with Kevin Costner's the father. I felt really deep that he was really in the role, and really you could see it develop. I love when he gets a little older and you see him like he doesn't know what he's doing yet. He's kind of like wandering the earth. He hasn't found himself yet. And when he finds the craft, gets the more well understanding of what Jor-El is and who he comes from, and then he meets Lois. I take that. I love the Lois interactions of this. I think Lois. It is the best Lois I've ever seen. Like, she's a world-class investigative reporter, and she does her job, and she finds out who Superman is. That actually makes a whole lot of sense to me. And the fact that they expose that and let her really paint the narrative about why she doesn't tell the world who Superman is. I believe that. I believe in her because she's a good person overall. I believe her actions. They ring true to me. And then how Clark reacts to everything, and he's like just this little boy still. I mean, he's a grown man. When Zod comes, he's still this young guy who doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know which way to go. He doesn't have his father anymore to really point him in the right direction. I love the scene when he goes to the priest, and he's like, I'm the guy that everybody like that they're looking for. I don't know what to do. Help me, help guide me. And then when he plays off Zod at the end there, it's just, there's something magical about that whole thing to me. And that's why I will always argue a lot of different things about what they said was wrong with Superman's origin, who Superman was, yada, yada. It's just Superman's first day on the job, and I'm with it the entire time. I love Man of Steel as a film. I love it even more as an origin story. People will say it's not the Superman they know. That's fine. I don't need it to be the Superman they know. I love this Superman. I love this take on the character. So to me, this is an easy give to Man of Steel. And that's someone who said, that's from me who really did enjoy Batman Begins' origin story. I liked Bruce's relationship with Rachel Dawes. I thought that was a nice little touch. I loved his relationship with Alfred, Michael Caine. So great. But it was a little more choppy. And perhaps Lucius Fox as well. I think what you said, Matty, how it's more and more of
Didn't you get the memo?
Which one you said? That was a segmented story. Who said that? I can't remember. It was
Jarvi.
Jarvi.
Yeah, me.
All right, segmented. That is very true to me. Like, it's more of a segmented, whereas Man of Steel is more of a smooth ride. And I think that's what gives it to Man of Steel for me.
One part that I completely forgot to mention is the fact, I think it's the biggest thing in the Man of Steel origin story, is when he kills Zod. And I think it's a big moment why a lot of people hate the movie. I think it's crucial. It's a crucial moment for Superman to have him kill Zod. And this is like, not that this is why he doesn't want to, and he never kills, but this sort of shows why he's always so much against it. And if, like, last resort, he has to do it, you saw so much pain there. Like the yell, the Henry Cavill, what he does in that moment was such a powerful moment.
Wait, doesn't he like look at the kid before he does it, and he's just like, "I don't want to do this." Like, especially like in front of these people, because they're gonna see me as this guy. Yes. If I kill him, they ain't gonna see Superman. They're gonna see this guy because I just killed him.
Right. People act like that was a complete turn off. The end of the thing, that was the point that they was a step too far, and Superman couldn't return from this. To me, I saw it completely differently. I saw it as in, like,
that's what centered him.
That's what centered him, and that's when he did that. He didn't want to do it. And when he did it, he felt regret for doing it. I mean, not regret for saving lives, not regret for anything afterwards. He's able to move on. But I think that was a moment that synced. I think at that moment, that's when he became Superman and said, "You know what? I have to be better. I am Superman. I have to do better, and I have to figure out a way. I can't do this again." But he's a young kid. This is his first day on the job. And, like, I felt it was a very powerful juxtaposition of what Superman's going to become. I do feel like we had gotten a chance to move on properly. I know we're getting Man of Steel 2, potentially now with Henry Cavill. Great. I'm happy for that. I'm not going to get into the whole Zack Snyder of it all. We better talk.
We don't need the bot showing up in the chat.
Exactly.
We don't need the bot showing up.
I will throw out there, I am a Zack Snyder fan, but I'm not a Zack Snyder fan. Exactly, this kind of thing. I do wish we had gotten Man of Steel 2 in a proper time with this whole team again. But this was a powerful depiction. I'm always going to have this as one of my. I have a hard time seeing how any Superman film will beat this one for me, especially the origin story of Superman.
Let's change my vote to Man of Steel, please.
Oh,
it's happening.
It is, all right.
Yeah, I talked my way out of it. Like the whole thing about Superman's killing, Superman killing, it needed to happen, and I think your argument swayed me as well.
Well, I'm always glad to hear that, so I appreciate that, Travis. So, all right.
And also with that, shout out to The Rock for the only way he could sell Black Adam was by leaking the post credits.
Fuck. Let's talk about how bad Black Adam was. What the fuck?
I still haven't even seen
it. I don't think we got enough time. I don't think we got enough time.
That was a bad movie.
I'm probably gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for streaming at this point. I will see it eventually.
Shout out to Pierce Brosnan for being the only good part of that movie.
Agreed.
Snyder bot has arrived. Oh, Sean. Oh, God.
Oh, fuck's sake, here he goes.
Good to see you, Drew.
What's up, Star Drew?
OG
crew in the house.
OG crew. That's right. He's been with Class Action for quite a long time.
Sean's now gonna start explaining why the Snyder Cut is integral to the point of Man of Steel.
And Reef has reported in the comics and the animated film, Superman has killed, but only as the last resort. That's true. It's not he's never not killed before, and especially if he's going to kill somebody, it's going to be someone like Zod because he can't overpower and keep him down. There is almost no other option for him. He doesn't have the Phantom Zone. He has no idea what to do with this. But at this point in this Man of Steel's career, what's the option? He can't like imprison him. He can like throw him into space, maybe, but then he'd come back. Like, there's a lot. So it's kind of I get the point. I think you should think about that as well. It's not a Superman who's been around for a long time and been able to study what to do with these people. So
how many people did Superman kill in Injustice? Gods of what was it called?
Lot.
Like a shitload. He goes on a fucking rampage.
Also, how many people did he kill on accident while fighting Zod?
Oh yeah. Well, there's that. That's
a good point. People bring that up too. Like it's like, well, that's not Superman. Like, well, that's what happens. I mean, hell, that happened to Superman too. I mean, in like Christopher Reeve Superman, they had the Zod and him fighting in New York City. I'm sure there were deaths there. Yes, they made the point of Superman trying to save everybody, but Superman tried to save everybody here too. Like he saved Chris Maloney, who we never mentioned. I love Chris Maloney in this film as well. He was saving people as best he could. He's saving the soldiers when he could. It's not like he didn't care about it, and he saved the people at the end. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. Sean Blaze saying the Snyder Cut is the worst thing to happen to Hollywood since Harvey Weinstein. Wow.
Oh, wow. Why would you say that?
Wow.
I love it. I think
it's less the movie itself and more the what's behind it that is the worst.
The Snyder Cut's amazing.
No, yeah, but it's the zealots. It's the zealotous bots that made the Snyder Cut happen, kind of thing. It's the
thank you, bots.
What's the movement though? No, but they were trashy people.
Right now.
They were trashy people though. It's not. I'm not gonna lie. I think
trashy people made something great happen.
Yeah, but
that happened.
You don't want to die on that hill, Jarvi. You really don't want to die on that
hill.
Okay, because I mean, I'm actually happy we got to see the movie. Don't get me wrong. I love it.
Henry Cavill is gonna come to heaven back. Shut up, Jarvi.
That point, pretty much. All right, before we get killed. Let's move on to the next category here. This is the one Jarvi was talking about: Man of Steel versus Batman Begins, Zimmer versus Zimmer, and James Howard Newton.
I'll just make my point real quick, and then I'll let you guys.
I think Jarvi finishes us out. So yeah, Matty, make your point real quick.
I define this category by which score would I rather own on vinyl, and it is 100% the Batman Begins score. 100.
Okay.
It's what
I had no idea which
put it on vinyl. I could just sit, relax at home, put the vinyl on my record player, and just let it turn and just let it listen.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go. I'll go first, and we'll let Jarvis clean out for the next like half hour. I am completely the opposite. Give me the Man of Steel soundtrack any day. I would wipe my ass with the Batman Begins soundtrack comparatively. Like Man of Steel.
Wait, is that a compliment?
No, it's not. I hurt myself. Anyway, I look at the Batman Begins soundtrack. Good. Yeah, it is good. It is a fine film soundtrack. I love a lot of it. I can listen to it all the time. I could listen to it and have an improv, but Man of Steel is transformative to me as far as like soundtracks go. Like I just hear that one little clinking piano note, and I all of a sudden have the hairs on my arms are sticking up on end, and I start getting chills. Just the one. And you're like, oh my god! It's like the trail, and when the trailer the first Man of Steel happens, with that theme comes in, I literally like cried my eyes out. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying right now. Like this is like ridiculous. That score repetitively, it never gets old for me. It makes our friend Jeff Alterman, who actually hates Man of Steel, says one of the parts about Man of Steel is that it's a movie that is a shitty movie that the score tricks you into thinking it's good. That's what he said.
I believe he said that Man of Steel would win this outright if one of the categories was a score that completely overpowers the entire movie.
And as much as I disagree with Jeff as far as the actual film goes, I don't disagree that this score could absolutely do that. That's how transformative the score is to me. I fucking love this score. It's one of my favorite scores of all time. I actually put it up there with the John Williams Star Wars themes. I put it up there with Interstellar from Zimmer. I put it up there with everything. I
put up there with the Star Wars themes.
Oh, it's like this and this. Like, it's
one. Are you drunk?
I'm saying, like, if I have to, like, look,
whoa. PLD put a Hans Zimmer score on par, almost on par with a John Williams score.
Well, after John Williams, look. After John Williams, there has to be another score. What's next after Star Wars and after John Williams? There's John Williams up here, but everything else is down here. A Man of Steel is that top level.
I'm up here.
Too late.
You're down there.
I fucking came when you said it, so I'm.
Hey, look, John Williams. I will always put John Williams above anything else. Absolutely. But I've never, and I usually decry Hans Zimmer when it comes to John Williams versus Hans Zimmer. And I'll still hit. We ever had a John Williams versus Hans Zimmer show? John Williams is going to win 15-0 as far as I'm concerned. Still, but Man of Steel is like
you lost me.
The best of the rest.
You got boring. You're not interesting to me anymore.
Unlike the Man of Steel score. So, all right, Jarvi, we've had our say. You bring us home. Go ahead. Give us the lowdown.
This is my favorite and my least favorite category, both in one, because this is truly like choosing between my children. I like Hans Zimmer, as you probably have guessed. He's my favorite composer of all time, and these are two of like there's the best of Hans Zimmer, and then there's Man of Steel. There's Batman. I'm gonna just say the Batman trilogy altogether for Hans Zimmer. It's kind of a whole thing on its own. I think the differences where it comes in. I think Man of Steel has those beautiful orchestral long notes that you don't really have. You don't have some of that, John Williams flair that the original movies had. But I think it mirrors the movie in a more grounded way, because there is a darker approach to it, and I think that's what Hans Zimmer does very well with Man of Steel. Batman Begins is way more percussions and drums and lots of bass. It's very rhythmic. There's some melody in there, and I think it gave Batman its very own and very memorable theme. But I think some of the best moments in Batman Begins is when the Hans Zimmer score comes in. And sure, there's James Newton Howard in there. You got to give him credit as well. But the reason why James Newton Howard he didn't quit, but he sort of was, okay, Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan had such a rapport together. I'm going to step down for The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. And Hans Zimmer took over those, and it was sort of a perfect storm. Having said that, I am completely unable to pick between these two. So I'm going to do this only once in the history of Class Action. I am flipping a coin.
Oh, okay.
I can't pick because I just can't pick.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to do
have you got a coin
heads. Heads is Batman Begins because Batman has a head, and
this better not be a
removes a head.
Coin.
Sorry?
Right. This better not be a two-faced coin, double-headed coin.
It's not. Heads
ground rules. Wait.
Heads. It's a virtual coin toss because I don't have a coin.
Wait. Before you do it though, is it best 2 out of 3 or is it just one?
Just one. Okay. Just one. So heads is gonna be Batman Begins. Tails is gonna be Man of Steel.
Ooh.
Flipping
All
it.
Right. And we're not seeing this on the screen, by the way.
It's Tails. It's Tails, so that means Man of Steel.
I'm okay with this decision.
I'm happy with this. I'm happy. I cannot pick. This is impossible. First and only time I'm ever going to do this. Man of Steel.
Sean agrees to Man of Steel score all day, but both are awesome. I agree with that. And of course, just to bring this back real quick, I understand, Sean, the cultists don't reserve the reward. I hate that it was an actual enjoyable movie. Between Sonic Cut and Sonic Redux, the internet thinks they are all powerful. That's kind of what I mean in a way. Okay.
Yeah, the Sonic Redux I kind of get. It didn't have to go as far as it did, but there was definitely some changes that had to get made to that.
All right, let's finish this out with better costume design. Better costume design.
Let me finish this one because I got the most poignant point to make for costume design. So let me finish this one out.
Jarvi, you know what? You're already on a roll for score. Like, why don't you just bring it home with costume
Let's
design?
get the coin back out. No, I think, all right, I'm going to.
Coin cam.
This was surprisingly easy for me.
Okay.
And it shouldn't be because they're both great. But I think Batman Begins Batman outfit is, and I mean this with all the love I could give it, is the weakest of the Batman trilogy. The suit is getting up there. That's like the suit that we get in The Dark Knight Rises. There's an evolution for the suit that Batman has. And Batman Begins is, it's the most leathery, the toughest. He can't even turn his head. That's a thing. They actually point that out, which is totally fine. I love the way the suit looks, but if comparatively I look at the other movies, I think Batman Begins suit is the weakest one. But still, I'm comparing it to Man of Steel. But I think the Superman suit was a pretty big deviation of what we were used to. It still has that classic sort of spandex look to it, but the colors were much more toned down. And I think where the Superman suit shines is sort of the graphic design of the logo and the lettering. The entire suit as well, it looks sort of not grainy, but sort of, I don't know, there's like a pattern to it. It's modern. It still has that classic look. It makes Henry Cavill look even bigger and more powerful than he is. And I think the reimagining of the S was a super cool touch. And I'm going with Man of Steel.
All right. Like I said, I'm going to let Matty take us out. I kind of agree with almost everything you said there. I think the Batman suit is fine, but it definitely feels like it's a little boring, to be honest with you, comparatively. It's just, I guess what else can you do? It's an all black.
It could give him nipples.
They could give him nipples. Absolutely. They can give him more of a cod piece. Maybe, I don't know. But like, I don't know if the reason why I hesitated giving it to Man of Steel outright is that I don't know if it's as the costume or if it's just the perfection that Henry Cavill is wearing it. I mean, like I am a straight man, but Henry Cavill and that is just holy fucking shit. That is fucking.
You're gay for soups.
See that guy? That is fucking spot on. Like that, and Henry Cavill in that suit is probably one of those perfect men I've ever seen in my life. And I think I want to give credit to the suit a little bit, even though it probably isn't as much Cavill. I mean, how the costume designer actually said that he was distracted by Henry Cavill's perfection when trying to design the suit. So I get it. But I love the S on it. I love that a lot of times in these films, going back to the 80s and everything else, you had the 80s, you had Christopher Reeve, which was wearing pretty much a costume or comics accurate, bright colored, like whatever. Speedo. Everything was just exactly what it was supposed to be from the comics, whatever. They started trying to tone down these colors, and like where Batman also went to all black. The X-Men, they got toned down. Everything was toned down. Even Spider-Man seemed like was toned down to a degree. And a lot of times it was for the worst. I felt it was like it was too boring and too like I thought it was not necessary. They were trying to like appeal to a crowd that wasn't like a more mainstream crowd that were turned off by the lights or whatever, I guess, in a way. With Man of Steel, they did a good job with it in terms of I felt like it was toned down a little bit, but not toned out completely. I still felt like it had a bright hope to it, and it still worked tremendously well. Beyond that costume design of the heroes, I also want to throw out there. I mean, I will say
I forgot about that.
Batman Begins also does have the Scarecrow-ish things, which is kind of very cool. But I don't know how much of that is costumes and how much of that is special effects. Really, it's kind of hard to like.
It's still an artistic choice,
but with the mask.
Yeah.
It's still an artistic choice,
right? And so I mean, that's a good one as well. But then you got like the Kryptonians, which were kind of cool things as well. So it's kind of going back.
I forgot to mention that.
So at the end of the day, I too am leaning towards Man of Steel. basically on the strength that I do like the Superman costume better than I like this Batman costume per se. I'm kind of tired of the Batman all in black. I get it why it is that way, but I almost like the darker. I grew up
golden belt.
I grew up back in the day. I know, and I know this is me, but as a kid from the '80s, I grew up with the dark gray Batman with the old thing. So that's my Batman to a degree. So that might be my own personal bias. I get why
you saw the Adam West costume.
Yes, that's what I grew up with.
Batfleck costume also has that grayish thing to it.
It's a little more gray at times, which I kind of like. I think I appreciate the Ben Affleck costumes. That's a little bit of a good, what sort of looking for the compromise there between like the very old Christopher Reeve like Batman costume in a way, the same version, like what I meant by just the comic accurate from the '80s way versus the all black thing we've kind of come to associate with Batman, which does absolutely make more sense. It does make more sense that way. Not gonna lie. So I admit some of this is completely out of line, but at the end of the day, I gotta give it to Man of Steel. So Matty, you gotta take us home there now.
You guys are going way too deep with this. You're telling me Christian Bale looks better in a clunky suit of armor than the chiseled Greek Adonis that is Henry Cavill in a tight spandex. Listen, as Paul said, Paul's a married man with children. I am also one of the straightest dudes you could ever meet. Henry Cavill is a fucking specimen. Do you know how many times that I have looked at a picture of Henry Cavill and like, I'm in fairly good shape, but like, how many times I've looked at that man and thought, fuck, dude, that's the dream. That is the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the way it's like perfectly sculpted to his body is just like, bro, put up a wet floor sign in every fucking screening, dude.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Like we need to start objectifying men as well as women in these movies. And I am very aware that I am objectifying Henry Cavill this moment. But even him as August fucking Walker, him as Geralt in the fucking Witcher, he's still my beating heart.
Cavill you have no idea how happy this episode makes me. Hans Zimmer love, Henry Cavill love. We've forgotten all about John Williams and PSH, and we're just loving the right things together. Thank you.
Why'd you bring up that name? Why'd you bring up PSH?
I had to.
Because PSH is also
I love
a
PSH.
specimen, also a specimen in his own way.
Imagine PSH as Zod.
Oh, that would be cool.
Wow. All right. Well, that will do it for us, folks. We're a little unusual. Let's count up the votes and see which one wins here. We do have
the way I thought it was going to
go. Same here.
Win. Pretty clear enough win. With a final score of 8-5. Man of Steel is victorious.
Yep.
That's the underdog.
How I thought it was going to go.
That's the underdog. In
Man
this
of
fight.
Steel is victorious. I'm happy to say.
Zack Snyder beat Chris Nolan.
Mm-hmm. It's impressive. That's impressive. I will say, this is actually.
Don't
I'm going to
say
throw
that.
this out there. I want to throw this out there. This is another game. This is another kind of game I want to try. I'm going to start here. Not game, but like I think it's a cool idea. After we do this, after we now have Man of Steel as the winner. Now we give what would be our fresh take on this thing. If we had to watch a movie right now, which one of these wins? Which one of these
Begins.
wins? Without the categories.
Man of Steel.
Begins for Matty, Man of Steel for Jarvi. I think I have to go with Man of Steel also. So very interesting how it turns out.
I have seen Batman Begins probably 15 to 20 times. I've seen Man of Steel 7 to 12 times.
Okay.
So that's
fair.
I don't know. Man of Steel feels fresher to me.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, folks.
Real quick to Reefism's point, I found out what gives Superman his powers on Earth. Reefism, that's called steroids, my guy. Steroids and protein shakes.
On that note, where can the folks find you, Richard-Erik Jarvi?
On Facebook and Instagram at Richard-Erik with a K Jarvi, and every Wednesday on Not Action Industries on PLD projects. Next week, I probably will have to skip because I'm out of the country. But if I do make it, I might be able to chime in from the hotel room. Actually, not. I just remembered I'm in transit, so maybe I get to say hi from an airport and just pop in and say hi. But I won't be able to be on for the entirety of the show.
Get your nemesis on.
All right, that's right. We're gonna do James
Nope.
Cameron.
All right, guys, I can make it.
We're doing James Cameron next week.
I'm gonna be there.
We're gonna do
Matty.
James Cameron versus Hans Zimmer somehow.
Oh.
Matty, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Matty Gunner, Instagram Matty_Gunner. You can find my band Mourner on all streaming services. And also, I was very lucky to guest on one of my absolute favorite podcasts, the Fight Disciples podcast. They very, very kindly had me on today. It's out now. It came out literally an hour before we went live, when we were just talking about everything in the world of boxing and the world of MMA. Had a really good debate with each other, and yeah, getting to do a podcast with two people that I'm a fan of and respect very highly was really awesome. So if you're a fan of combat sports, go check that out. It was a really good time. And again, thanks to those guys for having me on. And yeah, you can find me here every Wednesday with Yisu.
All righty, that's
Lovely gentleman.
Very cool. I will say you can find me at Paul DiNuzzo on Twitter. And you can find me, I think, on Instagram. I don't know, Jarvi, what am I on Instagram? You know that better than I do.
Paul_DiNuzzo.
I am there too. All right, good. I don't do IG very much. I might start doing it more. I probably should.
They just repost the clips from the show.
You got to, you know, Twitter is going to shit now, so you can just as easily go.
I'm going down with that shit, bro. I got on Twitter.
It's going down.
I kind of feel that way too. I'm just there, so I have no reason. Like I'm gonna watch it burn. Like I'm on the fucking Titanic. I don't know. Either way,
good reference.
I've got to make sure
behind that reference.
I'm sure you would. But you can join me here every week on PLD Projects for Class Action. You can also find me on PLD Projects and on wherever you can find podcasts everywhere. I do a show with PJ Campbell called 2 Meter White Dudes on Film. This week, we unfortunately could not make our schedule work out, so we had to take a week off. Unfortunately, so we will return next week for our episode on Dr. Sleep, which I can't wait to talk to PJ about. I fucking love that movie so much. That's going to be a very, very fun one. We're going to be both gushing about that movie quite a bit. So, and that's not a spoiler there. If you know us at all, you know we love this film.
If you do release the Dr. Sleep episode, put our old Class Action Dr. Sleep versus It Chapter 2 on there as well. I think they could, you know, sort of.
I believe that's actually already on the feed. It's actually already on the
feed.
Okay. We did the first one. No, you know what? Maybe we should do that. Actually, I don't think it's on the feed because that's the old one. That's our very first episode.
Yeah, that's the very first episode of Class Action.
Maybe I will. Maybe I will do that next week. I'll throw that on the special. But no, I've been kind of catching up with our version of Class Action first, and then I was going to decide what to do from then about the original OG. But maybe I'll make an exception for that. I think that's a good idea. And of course, real quickly, I also throw Men of Steel, Crown Jewels out there. I also do that every week for my Queen podcast, going through every song in the Queen catalog this week.
What's next?
This week is an interesting week. I am doing the catch up from Queen 2, so to speak. I decided to add a new wrinkle to it. We have the official live albums are out there. So I do some covers out there. So I'm going to talk about Queen's cover of Jailhouse Rock. And I will also talk about the early Queen tours, a little bit of touching base with their touring to support Queen 1 and their tour to support Queen 2, their typical set lists, also some rare live tracks that they played that they're not anywhere to be found, really. It could be kind of fun. I think that's my new segment I'm going to do at the end of every film, at the end of every album. I'm going to do a catch up with some of the live stuff and some of the stuff that's been officially released, at least, and go from there. That's going to be out on Friday. On here and on Auto, Spotify, and all those great places as well. But you can also find us at patreon.com/PLD Projects. Of course, come join us there. You can join such wonderful patrons as Daniel Ramirez, Brandon Buckingham, Brady Parker, Jeff Alterman, John Lestrina, Kelly W. All of you help me keep the lights on. So I truly appreciate you there. Much love to everybody, as of course, in the Patreon. We had a lot of fun times there as well. And if you are new here, I probably should say, I'm so bad at this, I should say it's the beginning of the show and sometime in the middle of the show as well. But I always say,
like, share,
everybody's leaving.
Subscribe.
When everybody's leaving already, I'm like, yeah, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that stuff. Okay, let's get the algorithm. Let's get that algorithm back up. We're going to get another 15,000, 16,000 viewed episodes at some point if we could. But that's till next time, everybody. Of course, until next time, stay safe. We love you all. And of course, judgment has been served. You know, that whole ending. Yeah, just hit the gavel. Just hit the gavel. Go ahead, just do it. It's over. I said it's over. Go home. What are you still doing here?